like this. Yes, we will be formal in that, it's important to welcome people the right way. Right. What my grandmother used to say. You don't just have folks come over to your house or come over to your spot or wherever you're hanging out and not greet them properly. And so as we prepare to go into tonight's session, I want to greet you properly. And I want to allow you to know that you are important to me, to us. We don't take your presence in this space lightly. We don't. We can't. And so as we were preparing for tonight, I told the airmen, I said, I know it is often as I've done it as we've come into this spaces, I don't want it to become routine that we first center on our intentions. And why we're here, why are we here? What are we up to? What keeps me coming back? And that we figure out what we can do together. Y'all know that it is crucial right now in this moment, in this city, that we figure out how we come together. We've been having conversations, I think all week right here, both locally and nationally and at the state level, about what are our next steps. Looking around this room, all of us have been a part of some powerful movement in the city. And because of the things that we have done, they've gotten hip to us and we won a federal lawsuit. And so our tactics aren't as strong as build that kind of power as they used to be. But what I know for sure, and what keeps me inspired, is I know the power of us. I know we're gonna figure it out, right? We're gonna figure it out because we have to. Mm-hmm. And so setting our intentions on those things, how do we reach back into our community with our bases, with our allies in a way that we reorganize our base, reorganize our membership, that they don't just feel it's necessary to show up in the heat of the moment with their beautiful signs in front of the State House, but they are thirsty and hungry for knowledge and they're showing up in these moments of time. It's crucial that we figure that out. And what I know for sure is people want to show up. Oftentimes there are things that prevent them, but oftentimes they haven't been invited by the right person. Mm-hmm. And so that's our work to do. And so I'm gonna ask you to stand up real quick and we're just gonna center real quick. And all of y'all remember what I've been teaching us about the 4 dimensions of centering, right? And if you don't, that's okay, I'll help you remember. But I just want you to get comfortable. Just get comfortable. And begin to settle the weight of your body firmly down into your feet until you can feel the floor coming through your shoes, just kind of plant it. And as you're doing that, just begin to stand up a little taller, push your shoulders back, loosen your jaw, airless. Begin to relax in the comfort of knowing that we are safe. The people standing next to me, I know and I trust, and I can relax. Yes, that's it. That's it. I'm safe here. This is familiar to me. These are the people that I know and I love. They love me back. And so the first dimension of centering is our length. Remember, our length reminds us that we can hold our head up high. That's it. That's it, my brother. And all my dignity. I am somebody. I deserve the things that my heart desires. In me is greatness. I come from greatness. I'm standing in my dignity. A person worthy of honor and respect. That's dignity. The second dimension of centering is our width. And as we hold our dignity just begin to get wider. Fan your arms out and your shoulders. Expand your chest. There you go. There you go, my sisters. Expand your chest out. It's my width. Width. If you want to, just spread your arms out a little bit more. There you go. Our width reminds us that we have a right to do what? We have a right to take up space. I don't have to shrink here. Matter of fact, I don't have to shrink nowhere. I have a right to take up space. I have a right to speak my mind. I have a right to be here. That's my width. Yeah, the right to be here, my dignity. I have a right to take up space, to be heard, to be seen, to be valued. It's my width. The third dimension of centering in our length and our width, just gonna lean back just a little bit with it. Yeah. All the way back. You thought, okay, Ernest. Back to the back. Back with his knees right. Yes, yes. It's our depth. Our depth reminds us of all those things that we've seen, all the things that we've heard. Also, is back there is our ancestors. That grandmother, that grandfather, that auntie, that great grandmother, that great grandfather. That reminds us of who we are, where we come from. Whose shoulders am I standing on? We're in the middle of almost to the end of Black History Month, and this time of year we get all these reminders of all that history. That's what's back there. All those that fought before us, that wrote the master plan and the blueprint to freedom. That's back there. That's our depth. And our fourth and our final dimension of centering. So with all of that length and that width, all that depth, it's now just leaning into and our commitment. Our commitment is what am I up to for the sake of what? What is my purpose? Why am I here? Why do I keep showing up? What am I committed to? Close your eyes for a minute and just think about, what am I committed to? What is it that I get up and keeps me up at night and I get up thinking about? What is the thing that I'm determined to do right now that I will leave a legacy? What is that commitment? What is that? Let's just take a couple of breaths together. What is that commitment? In all my length, and my width, and my depth, and my commitment. Those are my intentions. Those are my desires. That's why I live. Yes. That's why I live. That's why I give of myself in service. That's why I keep showing up. Yes. When you feel comfortable, you can slowly take your time and open your eyes. And yes. Thank you so much for allowing me. And if you can go ahead and take your seat and get comfortable. I thank you for allowing me to have the honor of centering with you. Because each time I do it, I can feel the energy of your power. And it fills me up. And I hope that collectively, you were able to feel the person next to you and all of their power. I thank you guys so much. I don't have to really do a lot of housekeeping because again, we're at home. We're at home and we're so grateful to Motherful for all that they do and how much they bless us and allowing us to be here in this space and just always open up their doors to us. You guys know where the restrooms are. We're gonna get into our comrade. He told me earlier, he told me all the time, but I let it go out one ear, in one ear and out the other. Our gorilla. Call me gorilla, but I call him comrade. And I asked him, what's the highest military name? He said general. We started using that general. Comrade, Guerrilla General, Executive Director of the People's Justice Project. But most importantly, I didn't think I'm crying tonight. Most importantly, my friend, a person that I trust with my life, a person I could not do this work without. I have been blessed and fortunate enough to work alongside of Aramis, to have on speed dial his wise counsel, his knowledge of history, and his commitment to the movement. He's a living, breathing example of what it looks like. And so I'm fortunate and honored to be here tonight to hear from him. I hope you guys are too. I'm going to turn it over to Aramis and he's gonna come up and drop some gems on us. So I got the comfortable chair so I can be front row and center, learning and absorbing all this knowledge. Come on, Aramis.
Okay. No, thank you, Tim. I'm glad that's on tape. That's recorded. So now I can say that you actually said that in your time. Thank you, everyone, for coming on this Friday night. Is it? Oh, oops. So yeah. Well, you already know. We already said that. Can I sit here? Good. Yeah, so I'm Aramis, the People's Project. Why when the same was talking about like the gorilla part, the gorilla thing. It's really, brothers in the community always say, "What's up, King? What's up, King?" And I understand political economy, and I'm like, I'm not that. You know what I'm saying? Because in the continent of Africa, the king was the most stressed out person on the you know what I'm saying? Like, you ever seen Burger King?
Yeah.
You think okay? That's it. He was stressed out. And what did she have to do? Just war. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, what we doing? You know what I'm saying? And so like the king in Africa was most stressed out individual on the continent because he had to deal or she had to deal with the trade. And the trade routes were so extensive in Africa that like you were king. You see all those concubines he had, he's like, I ain't trying to be bothered. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like in Rome when they did fuck everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, nigga, no. Matriarchy. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, so anyways, that's why I like to identify with the person who is engaged in struggle. Because oftentimes, those people who are engaged with the people, who are organizing with the people and leading struggle with the people, have a better sense of what the political economy and what it looks like on the ground. So I always, every time my brother says like, so king, I'm like, pulse. Not that. I don't want that. I don't want that. So anyway, so yeah, so this discussion is one of our more advanced discussions we've ever created. I haven't done it in a while, so bear with me. Because I feel that it's important as we engage in struggles to really understand what the state. Because remember in the beginning stage of the movement, people always were saying like state sanctioned violence. They give a buzz term, but nobody really knew what the state was. And so that really bothered me. I was like, you're just saying that. you know, you don't really understand that elected relationship that the state is. Thus, we created this many years ago. And honestly, it's one of my favorite ones to go over. And also, it breaks down the emergence of the state. But the reason why that's important is that there was many. I've been arrested a few times in my day. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying for what, but you know, luckily my parents aren't on here because sometimes I didn't tell them. I just figured out ways to get out the joint. You know what I mean? So like, but it never bothered me. It was just like a process. Like, okay, I got pinched, boom, go to Jordan, boom, get out, boom, fines, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But there's one particular moment that it changed me. So I was in undergrad and I was living on 4th. And the girl I was seeing at the time was over my house. And we were like making food and doing all the, you know, going over the day and stuff like that. And I hear a knock at the door, right? Like late. So I'm like, where's my house? So I grab the blicky, like, what? You know what I'm saying? And I go to the door. And there are 3 or 4, you know, CPD to my door on my porch. I'm like, what do you want? You know what I'm saying? Something like that. And he's like, are you Aramis? We're trying to get Aramis. I'm like, Aramis, for what? You have a warrant for your arrest? A warrant? And you know that moment when you're like, trying to figure out what the hell you did. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting there like, oh, that's not legal. And you know, you're going through all the things in your head, like, what could I have done to get a warrant? So I'm like, and I open the door, like, what warrant for what? Are you Hermes? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, well, come outside. So they put the little, you know, bracelets on me and going to the cruiser. I think anything of it. I'm like, all right, fine, you know, and it's like, what is one for? They showed me what it's for. I'm like, are you serious? For this? You know what I'm saying? It's 7 o'clock at night, you know. And I asked him a question, like, how'd you find this out? He was like, well, we do a street sweep and we you know, run tags. And so if you come up, we're coming for you. We do it every couple of months. I knew about it, but I never was a victim of it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, yo, like, okay, go to county, call the moms phone's on. And then as I'm being processed, I'm upstairs and they give you that paper to like read your rights and all that pink paper. My mother always told me like read before you sign anything, right? So I'm like, I'm reading it for real. I'm reading this shit. And the pig is like, hurry up, read that, I gotta go. Fuck you, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm like, I'm reading this, you know, I'm not saying nothing. And he's giving me a hard time. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, can you hurry up and just sign? I gotta clock out, I gotta go home. And that's when it like dawned on me. Right? It's like, yo, what? You clock out? Like you clock out. Because in my mind, I'm thinking that real quick, I was like, yo, you actually get up in the morning, put pants on, do fuck shit for a job. You know what I'm saying? Because the cops are omnipresent. You know, they're at Kroger, they're at your school, they're on TV. When you're a kid, right? When you're a child, they ask you, what are you gonna do when you grow up? Call a firefighter. Like it's omnipresent. So like in my head, I'm thinking, you got to clock out. You're everywhere. You know what I mean? You're on the corner. You know, you're at the coffee shops. You know, I remember selling ice cream to someone when I was in an ice cream parlor. I was working on. If you just come in there, like, hey, ice cream. So they're just there. You know what I'm saying? Like they're just always there. So you never compute in your head that they clock out. So after that happened, I went down to the tank, and I'm bugging because now I'm seeing all African people, all poor people. I'm looking across, you know, when you're in the tank, you look across and you see the sheriffs, all white. You get a triple white, black eye. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, they're all white. I'm like, damn, you know? And I'm going to my cell. Boom, in the cell. What do I see? African people. You know what I mean? And I see a couple poor whites. And we're talking about TV. And I'm like, it's crazy. So I go through the process. boom, get bailed out, but it messed with me. And then I start going through the whole court process. You know what I mean? More aware of what's going on. So I'm on probation now. So I go to the PO office, it's the 7th floor, something like that, I forget. I'm up there. You walk through that hallway and it smells like jail. You know what I mean? Like no one wants to be there, you know what I'm saying? And so like you're sitting there walking and you sign with the piece of paper, you wait. And I'm sitting there, like everybody else. And then I look to my left, I see older gentleman, working class guy, you know what I'm saying? Like had this stuff on, like he was a worker. Running down the hallway. So we just post 9/11. So I'm like, Nick out, you know what I'm saying? But his face wasn't, it was of the stress of like worry. It was a face of like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Face of anticipating something that's going to happen to him. So he's running and he goes, signs. This white man walks out, which we learn now is PO, comes out. And he's standing on the wall like this. And this brother is like going in about like, I missed the bus, my kid, the whole nine, like giving the excuses of why he's late. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, oh no. And then everybody in unison was just watching it like it was television. Because there were two options here. Either you go to county, or he was a nice guy in case you back and says, it's all good. That moment, I saw the power relationship in front of my face of the PO and the so-called person who was seeing the PO. I don't want to call him convict or anything, I mean, it's a person. As it's pleading this case, the white man goes, yep, I have no choice, Carl. I'm gonna have to send you to jail. And he's like, come on, man, come on, And in not less than 2 minutes, the sheriffs come to get him and put the shiny bracelets on him and took them off. And everybody in that section was like, it's fucked up, man, like all that. And we all were unified. It's crazy. So I go and see my PO and I'm fucked up and it's crazy. And after that moment, in my studies, I have been obsessed with understanding these things called the state. I didn't know what it was, because when I said that the cops are omnipresent, when I say that the courts are omnipresent, it's supposed to be institutions that we accept. Like they're just always there. You know what I mean? You go downtown, there's a courthouse, everywhere you go in the United States, it exists. We glorify the Supreme Court. What's that lady who died? What's her name again? Ginsburg. And everybody's like, oh, poor colonized. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like it's this romanticizing the state. Like, this is the Supreme Court. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they do supreme justice. You know what I'm saying? They supremely fuck you over. You know what I'm saying? So like, there's this relationship that I always was fascinated with. Like, what is this thing? Why are my cousins being pinched? Why Miss Tammy had to go through the switch, had to go through? Why did I walk with the issue one? Because of my understanding of the state. Why are these so-called contradictions coming into existence? Where did it come from? So this is this discussion. And bear with me, I forgot my notes. So I'm purely going off of memory. So if I mess up or you don't understand what I'm saying, or I'm jumping into another realm. I was telling Ms. Tammy yesterday, when people ask me questions, especially with history, there's this thing that happens to me that. So what happens is, and it's real, you ever seen like Star Trek or like it's not a Star movie, Star Wars, when they go on the warp speed and the stars go like this real fast? As soon as you ask me a question about history, dialectic materialism, or revolution, or in Chile, like it's immediate. You know what I mean? Reproductive rights. It's like information is, I'm seeing dates, times go through my face, like through my eyes. and I'm seeing like a piece of paper moving, I'm seeing pictures of things I've seen, I'm seeing people being with the farm workers in California, like I'm seeing all these things. So like if I'm going too fast, that's what's happening. Okay. She's probably a condition or something. You know what I mean? Like crazy condition. Huh? Yeah, you know, so this it's time to be serious. So remember so oh yeah, these are people. So what do we know about the state? People, take 2 minutes. How is the state reflected in our communities? And what has been its lasting impact? The key questions I want to ask them. Bigger popcorn is a relatively quick question. Anyway. How do we know, what do we know about the emergent state? Number 4.
Do you want us to?
Yes, pop it up. Just pop it up.
So what do we know about the emergence of the state? The emergence of the state, historically, what we know is that there is a union of states that each one of those states has individual state, rule state by state to come up with laws and legislation to govern the lives of people in that state. That's from the political realm, but we also know the state to be political, and also as a occupying force. The state is sanctioned. They occupy our communities known as police, the warden and the correctional officers, and all of those things are all the control part of the state. Yeah, I think most of us, being black and brown, are folks that are oppressed and in the minority, often have a deeper understanding of the state as it pertains to power and control. Is what is emerging about the state, and people are starting to think about the state and who controls their day-to-day lives, and others their day-to-day lives. I talked about how state is really what has been its lasting impact. I think its lasting impact has always been oppression and oppressed people seeking freedom and trying to create it for themselves. Both politically, both economically. It's been a lasting impact of fighting the power of the state and recognizing the controls that it has on our daily lives. Would be my answer to those.
Anyone else have anything to add?
I think she kind of killed you. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
We also keep been trained, so. Yeah.
Look back, to be honest, I just position for our sake that we don't go on, you know what I mean? So like, talk about CPD, the police department, FBI, CIA, things of that nature as well. Those who are to control the overall power structure of the country and keep it lasting. That's how I think of how I interpret the state, those things that can't be changed for certain reasons to keep those who are oppressed for as long as possible. Us stay reflected in our communities. I think the state will be reflected in our communities, and I want to say like very locally. My own personal community has negative. However, if we look at the media portrayal of the state, we're seeing as nothing but being positive. And that's also the kind of people who brainwashed what's currently going on. And then what it has done is lasting impact, it's exactly what they wanted, to just complete control and domination. Over poor people, black people, brown people, and people who are not part of the capitalist structure that was there.
So you read some books. Yeah. Katie, what do you think?
For a while, you know, what I think about the state is it is a system that was set up to protect the citizens from dangers. The issue with it though is the way it looked when it was constructed. Who was the dangerous people and who was sold as being not part of our community, but very specific. It was anyone who was not white, was not Christian. It had to fit this very small bubble. And so as we've grown as a community and thought process, we have a moment to kind of step back and look at the origins of our thought process and where all of the rules and all of these thoughts come from. And I think what the state now reflects mostly is the flaws in the thought process. It is showing it's elongating these very flawed ideas, and it's making it okay to accept them because we just signed it off as it's the government, it's the way it's supposed to be done. But what I think our community is really showing is that what our idea of a bad person or bad guy or criminal is what needs to be challenged. Because when we talk about a criminal, like it is a different species almost. But what it is it is a human who has some circumstances that I don't understand. But they made a mistake. They broke a rule that was set by a government that doesn't necessarily represent them. They didn't agree to none of us were born into agreeing to these with the laws. So that's my understanding.
This is spot on.
You're the teacher.
I didn't see shit. You know, because like this is what's interesting about the state, because there's also what I heard from everybody, of course. I also heard from Tam, from you, protection. And I also heard from you articulated repressive forces in the media is a way to manipulate the masses into the ideology in the state. Another thing I did here, lasting impact was struggling for freedom. This is essentially holistically what it looks like. However, this is all correct. But whoops. Yeah. So, but how do we understand the state through the lens of historical materials? You see, because these things are all correct. But remember, we discussed last time we were together that we are organizing and building power in the real world. It is objective reality. We're living in a time where we have to be razor sharp on what we're up against. And this is the best quote. This is the way Human Project sees it as we move forward. So let's quickly go through what we discussed before. So materialism, I'm gonna go more further what this actually looks like in real time. So materialism teaches us that the world is tangible, knowledgeable, and can be experienced through the senses, and teaches us that all existing phenomena result from material causes that come into being, developed, and pass away according to the laws of matter and motion. It's a scientific view of the world. For example, you have a tree. The tree is objectively in existence. We're not debating on what the tree is named, what God brought it there. It's there, okay? The tree has to come into existence based off the internal. the tree exists as an objective object with a certain type of phenomena that had to occur for the tree to exist. It's called photosynthesis. The tree needs the root, it needs the rain to come down, external forces, goes to the root, feeds the tree, grows, light, is a whole cycle. That is the laws of nature. You see. However, it does not require the provision of God or important purpose for it to exist. It actually just exists. We can use that same type of philosophy into understanding human society. That is materialism. Is understanding that all things are coming in and out of existence in constant contradiction with each other. With external forces and internal forces that can speed up or slow down the process of society. Thus, these contradictions, unity of conflict between forces, are found in the unity of opposites. So in society, we have a dialectic relationship between the oppressed and the oppressor, the colonized and the colonized. This relationship is an antagonistic relationship in nature. Does this make sense? Same thing as inside of a tree, there's atoms inside of a tree in constant tension based off of the external force of nature speeding up the growth of the tree, but at some point the tree will die and it will come back again. The same thing with human society. Does this make sense, Mr. Henry? This is an antagonism. It's constant. It doesn't matter what you do. There's the colonized and the colonizer, the oppressed and the oppressor. Dialectic relationship between these two points. However, how do we understand the human development? This is Rodney, what they're going to. This is Walter Rodney, what they're going to. Maurice Stormford, what they're going to. And this allows us to see when we organize the conditions we're up against. So basically, remember when you always see in my emails, in struggle. Most people have no idea what I'm talking about. So how do we define struggle? Remember, we are historians, we're historical materialists here. The struggle is this. Basic human beings struggle with its environment. Humans struggle with its environment or nature. Okay, through this process, humans seek to relationship with this environment, nature, in order to win a living off of nature. This is what we've been doing since time immemorial. Very basic. It is the relationship and access to the environment that allows humans to experience growth and development and nurture their families, communities, and build shelter, clothe, feed, and house. This is the basic relationship we've been doing since we came off the trees. And I'm not over here talking about like God and other. I'm saying this is a objective analysis for those who are Christians. You know what I mean? This is relationship. Now, this was really fascinating. But also, we must struggle with the humans. You see, this relationship builds these things. Humans must establish relationship with each other in order for their struggle with nature, for the environment to be successful and secure their continued development. This has to happen. These relationships determine the individual and collective, or not, in some cases, access to the environment that is vital to its secure productivity and life. So we have humans struggle with nature, living off of nature to produce and reproduce. Life. This is the very basic foundation of human existence. What's fascinating about this existence is we made a choice at some point. When we came out, because some archaeology suggests, okay, what are the earliest decisions humans made on the question of relationship they should have with each other in their struggle with nature to build society? So this interesting thing that happened. So archaeology suggests, some historians suggest that there was a moment in Africa where the early Homo sapiens, hunter and gatherers, up and down East Africa, millennia. Some point, somebody drops something. They go up wherever they're going, come back, and then there's something that grew, rain or something that had to stop. Becoming hunter and gatherers. That's when we see an APOC in his history of human development, where we started not moving anymore, started growing our own foods, started growing our own things. We started looking around and observing our surroundings. This is where religion comes in. This is where questioning the existence of God. When we started looking at this river right here, the River Nile, what is this doing? Is this life? All these things. So with this process, we had this happen. This population increase in human development. You had agriculture. With agriculture, more population. More population, more agriculture. And so on and so forth until yes, what is surplus? What is surplus? Extra, more than you need. Thus come into existence something that we know as the state. Who controls the means of production? That is the fundamental aspect of the state. He was saying it's a repressive force. Funny you said that, because I wrote it in my book. The state is a repressive force. It is a reflection of the overall political economic relationship between people and in society, i.e. the capitalist state or the social state. It is also the case internationally in relations of states. Tammy was touching on this. The government, though, is the formation of the relations. That is the executive, legislative, judicial, etc. of nation states and local levels, which are the bureaucracy. That's your girl over there, RBG. She's a bureaucracy. No, she is the state. The bureaucracy is around her. Sorry about that. Based upon the correlation between people and groups, classes established by the state because of surplus. Who controls the means of production? The state, however, is an instrument of oppression. Were you just saying this? Hey, hello, how you doing? I am Aaron. Oh, yeah. Have a seat. We're just getting into this. Welcome. The state is an instrument of oppression. Is there to maintain law and order and protect the bourgeoisie from that. We're going to go discuss with the bourgeoisie in about a couple more slides, but the bourgeoisie and from the masses. You said this. The state is the police department. The state is the court system. Your homie. We are always up in this. You guys are always up in the state. Like, I'm not saying that you're homie. You know what I mean? I'm just saying like, yeah. The only RBG we care about is red, black, and green. Marcus Garvey gave us that. Yep. The state is the army and navy. All those things are instruments of state power and coercion. In other words, the state are those who do not elect. However, as we continue in this discussion, we take the materialist approach as Africans. We were once a free people that existed in our own political economies in Africa. Were kidnapped and transformed into the first commodities of capitalism. The first capital and producers of capital's first worker. Within the social system defined by the relationship between capitalist production and producers rests on the foundation of enslavement and colonial domination of peoples and territories of the world. Hold on, let me back up a second. Hold on. We're here, right? Let me just break this down. I gotta get off. So we discussed collectivism, correct? Here, I wrote here that somewhere, individual or collective or not. Remember, society is structured by political economy. It has nothing to do with any boogeyman, nothing to do with any white man's the devil. It is objective reality based off of these relationships. Humans and humans, humans and the environment, that's it. However, what happens is the state's created for the surplus, right? So this is what ended up happening. So you have a few phenomena that occur in human society. Can y'all see this? Communalism. Communalism is the basic structure of first human development in political economy. Essentially, humans were a means to themselves, not a means to anything. Makes sense? We need to develop our own societies. This is when we created trade, economic conditions. That's why I was talking about Africa being stressed out, because those kingdoms were vast. Nile Valley was huge. Nubia was massive. Places in the Western Hemisphere were massive because they did not have something that Europe had, was something called centralized government. It was decentralized. Therefore, it could last longer. You see. Fast forward to a new state of development that happened remotely in Europe called feudalism. Remember, I'm going up here memory. Feudalism is the economic system that existed in Europe primarily, which essentially means that there is no upward mobility. Have you all seen Robin Hood? And like those, this shit was stressful. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, during the feudal development, you had no options. Either you were a serf, you had to be a good serf. If you were a merchant, you had to become a really good merchant. If you were a knight, the kids you had were going to be really, really good knights. All the way down. Aristocracy, king, queens, but the center of the universe for feudal development was the Pope. That's how that structure was created, was bound to happen. It's going to fall. Because you can't own all the people in Europe. 97% of Europeans were enslaved, serfs, right? Once it fell, bringing into business the so-called Dark Ages, the Ottoman Empire took over what's now known as Libya, that area. You know where the Mediterranean Sea is? I have a map, I didn't put it up there, but that area right there, where it goes up to Turkey. The Ottomans took that over. They blockaded trade to Europe, bringing in forth Dark Ages. Trade could not get to Europe. Thus, constant warfare. These are objective realities. Constant warfare, leading to, at some point, I mean, you had the French war with Britain for 101 years. I mean, how would you war that long? You forget you won for it. You know what I'm saying? Like complete destruction. The Germanic wars were insane. You know what I mean? They were like, how many? You guys know what I'm talking about. But there's a bunch of them. So like eventually in time, as time went, the political economy was doing, because the political economy was centered in the Indian Ocean. The trade was going up to Europe. Therefore, at some point, some dude named Chris in Italy was like, yo, you ain't gonna run up at Isabella real quick in Spain. We talked to the shorty real quick. Yo, what's up, baby? What's going on, Chris? What's there, baby? Yo, I know you got all the other explorer guys going around Africa trying to get to the east. Nigga, I'm trying to go to the west. I'm trying to go there. No, east, I'm trying to go this way. All right, babe, what you got? I got Nina, got Penta, I got the motherfucker Santa Rita. Comes in, we'll roll that way. All right, bet. Go ahead, Chris, it's finance. Move with your boys. Chris gets lost. It's what's now known as Cuba. I wrote a paper once, so the introduction of the global finances was this moment. Feudal jumps what we know now. Capitalism. With the side of this, a new phenomenon of slavery. And then some suggest socialism next, and then communism, which initially means absent of state. That's all communism actually means. Doesn't mean anything crazy. It's like, why is state killing us? You know what I'm saying? So like, this is kind of like the trajectory of political economy, how we understand it currently, because it can also change. So this is about, so when we go back here, I hope that makes sense. It makes sense to me in my head. So when we're talking about the kidnapping, transforming your first commodity to capital, this is it right here. This is where we come in. We spearheaded that development because what Marx suggests in Capital, chapter 31, the turning of Africa into warren of the commercial hunting of black skins, signaled the rosy dawn of an era of capitalist production. Now, if you read Marx, he's being sarcastic here. He's kind of a little rosy dawn. He's being sarcastic. Read the whole book. These proceedings are a chief moment of primitive accumulation. Primitive means first. We are the primitive accumulation of the bourgeoisie's wealth. On the heels, there's the commercial wars of European nations with the globe for theater. This is World War II. You projected all of this during 1830 something. So this is our relationship. This is the state. These are these pictures that Katie took. This is the relationship. Now does this make sense? I hope this makes sense. So, but we're gonna go a little bit deeper into understanding the formation of the state. The phenomenon of enslavement and colonialism. My favorite. No, because it explains so much to me. And explains so much as we struggle, what we're contending with. Reproductive rights, you running for school board, everything that we're up against, this brings it into a scientific analysis where when people say structural racism, we say colonialism. Just nip it in the bud. You know what I mean? Like colonialism, you know, one word. Structural oppression, colonialism. It's very simple. Just say it. You know, so here we go. So let's define. You mentioned this earlier, Shannon. Colonialism is defined by the political, economic, cultural, and military domination of one nation state over another for the purpose of economic gain to the mother country. It's primary, you understand? The colonies are never to be independent. They're supposed to be dependent on the mother country. That's a colony. In this part of the world, we had the 13 here. That relationship, they were never supposed to achieve independence. However, here comes us. The indigenous land there. African labor, then African land theft for minerals is the precondition for colonial hegemony of Western Hemisphere in Europe that gave birth to the current economic system. That's what Marx's base is saying. Makes sense to me, you look confused. Okay.
I'm gonna say bigger Jamaica.
Jamaica. Exactly. Those, why are there even Black people in, have you ever worried about that? It's like, why are there Black people in Jamaica? Why the hell is Brianna from Barbados? And everyone's like, she's from Barbados. How the hell did that Black motherfucker get there? See what I'm saying? I had a friend in undergrad who was from Brazil, and she spoke Portuguese. And we were hanging out, and we're like, "Yeah, you speak Portuguese. You know what? You know that's your native tongue. What do you mean? Like, Portugal is all the way over there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how? You know what I mean? And it dawned on her. She was like, "Oh," I was like, "You didn't think about that?" Anyway, but this is what we mean by, so we talk about the colonies. We probably understand the colonies. So when the colonies came to existence, based off of Chris's voyage, and then later on the Brits coming to what's now known as the United States, North America, there was a constant conflict with not only production, but who's going to do the goddamn productive work? You know, and while they're creating all this wealth from accumulation, Thomas and them was like, yo, I always have this image of like the guys in Boston tripping because it's like 10-1 of British soldiers to 1 colonist. That's like complete occupation. Can you imagine going to the local pub and seeing the red coat just chilling? Yeah. And you was born here. You know what I'm saying? They can fuck you up a little bit. And it was bound to happen. A military conflict. The white working class are going to revolt. Thus spearheaded what we know now as the War of Independence. Remember, revolution is what? Complete destruction of the economic system in place of another one. The United States didn't have a revolution, it had a war of independence, but it kept the economic system, kept us. See what I'm saying? So, but then what's interesting about this development is that they created this constitution. So this probably going to tell me what a constitution is. A constitution, just remove all the glitz and glam that we learned in school. Every country has a constitution. All a constitution is a social contract agreed upon by those who were in the ruling class. Oftentimes, so you have contracts that are revolutionary contracts, like in Chile or Venezuela or Cuba. In this country, the contract was made in 1776. What that's thinking. Anyway, so the Constitution guides the governmental laws and policy, Constitution, but the Constitutional Convention and debate while they're in conflict and war were these fundamental things. What do we do now? So when they called, when they hit up my man over there in Virginia, Thomas like, yo, pulling up, I got someone to write some ill shit, B. So it's a Constitution hard. You know what I'm saying? Boom, he pulls up, they're having whole convention debate, they're going ham on each other. Connecticut wasn't dealing with it. They were like, no, we don't want to remove ourselves from the king, all that stuff was said. But this is what ended up happening. Who were these founding fathers? They considered themselves a better sort of men, the colonial bourgeoisie. They were slave owners or supporters of the slave interests. These are the merchants. The ones that were selling us on the block were making hundreds and they were making bank. The banking and finance system required this to happen. Efforts to divide the social contract for the proposed new nation state. The convention was a colonial contract and its strengthening of the colonial domination of peoples and territories within North America. This is the Constitution. This is what is happening at this time period, creating what we know now as the state in current history. The debate about the Three-Fifths Compromise is very interesting, because most Africans and other people in the United States think that they were thinking that we were 3/5 of a person. You are giving the colonial bourgeoisie way too much credit to think that critically. We were commodities, walking and thinking commodities. That's it. 3/5 was a business proposal because Thomas Jefferson had hundreds of Africans. If he's going to be in Congress and the population is what represents the person who's voted into Congress, they had to make a decision called a compromise. Thus, 3/5. Because if that was not in place, the Southern elite would have complete control of the economic system. Yes. Does this make sense? Yes.
Yes, I recall from a practice in Washington, looking at the documents of those like different, colony representatives. You can actually see that what eventually leads to the North conceding to this is because actually they have a lot of industrial interests.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so and it's also within the construction of cities.
Yes.
Yeah. It's both an industry.
Yes, and that's spot on, because we're getting ready to that's the most fascinating part of it all. Because there's this dichotomy that emerges with the political economic formation of North America, where you start having, like you were suggesting, this new phenomenon. Development of factories. The increased efficiency in manufacturing and production. This is the North, that you were suggesting. Boston, New York, what back then was called New Amsterdam. Virginia, not Virginia, Baltimore. Hubs of exports. Accelerate development of urban areas as manufacturing and commercial centers. You ever been to New York before? You ever been to Fifth Avenue, see Wall Street, how they don't produce anything? That's that. You know what I'm saying? They don't produce anything. However, you have in the South the major advancement of capitalist agriculture, development of the plantation income. Remember, we're historians here, dialectics. It's bound to happen. You can't have two competing economies in the same place at the same time. It's bound to happen. Why? Oh, this is something. What I put here. Oh, yeah. So this is. I forgot to listen. Told you I'm going off of pure memory. I'm going off. I'm going off pure memory here. So like. This is the force of the slave and the colonial economic system, the wealth distribution, historical roots of the colonial ruling class, or what people suggest in current history, the 1%. This is quick data in the richest and poorest people. Look at Boston. Or look at this relationship. What's happening now in Palestine, where in Ohio, East Palestine? You see? Yeah. Remember before we were discussing earlier, a false solidarity with the colonial bourgeoisie. There's a contract, an agreement, where as long as I am not enslaved, you can do anything to me. As long as you have that factory, and I can go over here and get on the train and do the thing, you can poison me. You can frack me. You can have me go into the mines. I will start a union, but as long as you keep those Africans enslaved. This is the political economy of the North America, because this is the wealth distribution. Fascinating stuff, isn't it? But let's not ever get it confused. European expansion and war. As historians, you know, people talk about intersectionality, we have race, class, gender. For historians, it's economy, war, no, politics, economy, and war. That's the intersections. That's all we care about. Never get it confused, because these contradictions are about to happen. I'm going to show the next slide. These contradictions will highlight the theft and control of land for the purpose of the expansion of the capitalist colonial base European economy. You must understand that even though these wars take place in North America, they are on a global scale. This is French, Spain. This is the Louisiana Purchase with France. See, this is Cuba. These are all these things emerging at the same time. Europeans versus Europeans, the first contradiction. Europeans versus indigenous, remember unity and conflict opposing forces. And then Europeans versus Africans will be forced to labor to produce the land once they have been taken. So when people talk about black on black crime, we go here. There must be European and European crime first, before we even discuss the contradiction of our response to it, of colonial domination. You see. Please understand that history will determine and will demonstrate that there is no limit to the expansion and tendencies of European colonialism and domination, even to your womb, which you guys are struggling with currently. Because what do we do? As humans, reproduce and produce life. Who is the vessel of life? Exactly. They were contracted before. It's not, it's subjective. You know, I mean, I'm not. So just watch this. It's like 10 years expansion of the territories and
That's the dog settled there.
yep. And of course, you guys good with this? Any questions, comments? This is, I mean, there's no movie or anything that can really describe the brutality of this. You have to pick up the book and read. Because this, not only 4,000 people died, but it was the day. Can you imagine being forced out of your own land into some other territory, knowing that your own political economies have? So now you gotta go over here and deal with other political economies. The bloodshed that had to happen for expansion. Here the tears. This is Andrew Jackson. Why? Because Africans are here. This is the forces of enslavement and colonialism in the economic system of the economy. What do we see here? Tobacco, raw material being shipped to Europe, to be created into products, to be shipped back to North America for consumption. At the same time, as it's happening, they're selling cheap merchandise to what they call the Gold Coast, which is Ghana, Senegal, especially over here, interrupting our political economy. Remember, people always talk about like Africans sold to Africans. It's not how it happened. You introduce something new that disrupted the overall political economy in Africa. You introduce something that was brand new. It didn't exist. There was no term of ownership of a human. Then they shipped enslaved Africans here, up here, sold it, and that is the first development, what we know now as the global economy. Triangle trade. Every time I look at this, how, we have in current history, we have the imperial wars of 1 and 2. Do you know how much warfare was here? That will counter all of that, because this was a dirty business. We're talking about regulations that didn't exist. We're talking about whole countries. Spain, Portugal. We'll get later. Spain, Portugal, going into war with itself. England had to enact laws because it was a very violent business for Africans and the European, because if you were on a slave ship, it was a good chance you would die on that slave ship because of constant resistance of us. It was omnipresent. Yes.
I think that actually the death rate on the Middle Passage was about 25%.
Yes. That's enough. Brutal business. There's this book by Eric Williams, Capital and Slavery, very data driven, but it's heavy. Here we go again with the development of colonial economic system. Cotton now becomes king. At some point, the United States produced 85% of the world's cotton to be exported. To recreate what's now known as the fashion industry. You know what I mean? But ship back, this is the development, the cotton gin and all this, the cash crop economy. Now it's called oil, you see? And then you continue with this development. We have slavery and cotton production. So it increases all the way to 1860 before what? Civil War, the hot phase. You know what I'm saying? So there's a dialectic relationship to the external forces. Forces of colonial enslavement. Here is the broad base of the plantation elite of the South, 1820, 1860. Look at that power. Can you imagine one individual, having that much wealth, contending with the northern elite? What's going to happen? Not going to go. And then you had the expansion period. We're going to go to this now, I think, right? Then we had these laws coming through dealing with us. Every compromise since we stepped foot here had to deal with African people. What do we do? Even Thomas Jefferson says in his book, only one he wrote, Letters to Virginia. He says, if there's a just God, we're going to pay for this. He says this. They even knew what they were doing. The fugitive slave law. So, the fugitive slave law is very interesting. So, they had two of them. So, the one is 1793, which didn't really have a lot of teeth to it. It essentially was, you run away African, we can come get you, bring you back. Very basic. Not until 1850. The compromise of 1850 is what? The Mason-Dixon line. Where does slavery end? What point? Because now you have the expansion to the west. Now you have Bleeding Kansas. What's that movie with Brad Pitt? They're going west and they're putting things in the ground. That's actually happening. You know what I'm saying? The question was, where does this end? You have the southern slaveholders' interests and the northern free soilers, which are Republicans at the time. The primary contradiction was, what do we do with the enslaved Africans? All escaped slaves were to be captured, returned to the masters, that officials and citizens of free states had to cooperate with law. That meant bounty hunters. That meant anyone who was white could come get you and me, even if we're walking down the street. That's 12 years later, right? Walk down the street and take you. Didn't matter if you were free slave. Before the war. Now they have the war and they make a new amendment. Remember the Constitution of the social contract. They amend it. They don't change it. They amend it. So the amendment that deals with us is this fascinating one. We all know this one. You know, it's like a amendment. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as the punishment of crime. Whether, yes.
This actually is found in the Northwest Ordinance of 1787 as well, so we're drawing from that as well, so that compromise was existing for a very long time.
Oh, hell yeah. Like, I'm not going, this is not a college course. I have the course. Don't threaten with a good time. I taught the course. You know what I'm saying? So I'm getting, don't do that. Because I will break it down. So neither, right on, it's not just saying. So like, the crime, convicted. Tell us the United States. We all know this means, right? Yeah, you're not in trouble. You get pinched. What does Hannah always call it? Say everybody another name. Yeah. Great book. Why is it important to do political economy? Let's go into this real quick. Marx says it. Direct slavery is just as much a pivotal bourgeoisie industry as machinery, credits, etc. Without slavery, you have no cotton. Without cotton, you have no industry. Without slavery, you give the colony, you don't have a value. Is the colony to create the world trade? It is a world trade that is the precondition of large-scale industry. Without slavery, North America, most aggressive country, would be transformed into patriarchal country. White North America off the map, anarchy, decay. This is the basis of our condition in the state. Because they reorganized it. After the war, another compromise in the 1970s. Radical reconstruction. Move the planetary relief. The industrial North capitalists reorganized itself into agribusiness. Free withdrawal, essentially the federal government. Transfer of the economy to industrial society. Who's that beautiful lady right there? Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Convict leasing. With that clause, now we have to question what to do with all these Africans. Beggarship laws. Put you in the mine, boy, so you can mine the coal. Now we have trains to deal with. What do we do with the labor that was in the fields? Sharecropping. At this point, usually I break down the political economy and sharecropping. I really don't feel like doing it right now. But sharecropping, tied to the land, debt peonage, thus the police. Leading to our youth. Corporations taking you from vocational training at time never being able to cope to live okay with their families. And you fast forward all the way to now. The state is meat here. for Africans and indigenous people with the emergence of the African Revolution, Revolutionary period. COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program, is not just local, not just United States, but global. That is, I deal with Lumumba, Nkrumah, Bobby Sands Island. But in the States, we had to deal with it. It's called a counterinsurgency. Counterinsurgency means what? War with no terms. All our leaders are either killed, thrown in jail, and then they have colonial, something called a colonial drug war, where they dump in drugs over police our communities. Media, of course, is people. These Black people are, what do they call us? Super predators. It's all the way up. And we are here today. Of course, we know that we are more likely to deal with the state because of these fundamental objectives. So we set foot here in what's in this. Again, same slide, with the African and the indigenous are more likely. Two point time, like we arrested by police, killed by police. Another, I saw one today that says, what, 95% of murders are not, police killing Africans are not tried or convicted, something like that. It's a passing grade. You have 2.5 Africans, and this is, you can just look this up. It's not like I'm gonna go through it. It's not like undergrad or anything. You know what I mean? However, in conclusion, the states are domestic colonial soldiers who occupy the African community and who serve on the front lines of war against our domestic colonized Africans. Some suggest are open air prisons. Where Africans are terrorized by the police, the state justifies the police terrorism by claiming that Africans and other oppressed peoples are criminals. Remember they call us, what they call us, Black extremists, Black terrorist extremists? Some other kind of deviant behavior. The state produces this narrative in order to hide its dastardly ways. The true nature, the fact remains the state is itself oppressive, utterly criminal, and has been since its inception. It is the greatest provocateur. Violence in human history. The capitalist state. There's nowhere you can find the capitalist state brought peace, harmony, or joy to anyone. You are wait. Everybody lying. However, people, we most familiar representation of the United States government and the African class is the police, not a city council person, not a mayor, not a representative of the state, of the bourgeoisie. It is the police. It is the state and its ability to impose terror and social control of the masses. This is how most of us get radicalized. It is not a question of Obama being elected. It is not Obama or Biden being elected. It is not, oh, Shannon's running. You know what I mean? No. Sorry, not a more. But it isn't. I mean, it's our relation to the state. That's how I got radicalized. The young man, a little boy. You see. But yeah. Sorry. And again, we are not engaged in struggle for safe spaces or a friendlier form of oppression Nor are we struggling for the state or colonial ruling class to be more simple to us. We, the African, the indigenous, and the more militant sections of the white working class, and all kinds of people are struggling for power and self-determination over our own lives. So whether a colonizer is symbolized with swastika, or a random gunman shoots down Sazia Reed, we are so organized that we can no longer do that without facing consequences. That's what we are doing. The common. It's not reactionary. The organization is founded on those contradictions. You understand the dialectic relationship of us and them, the oppressed and the oppressor, the colonized and the colonizer. Because we do know that the African Revolution, led by us, once unleashed, gave rise to the virtually every other progressive entity that sprang up in this country, both past and in current history. It is the African class that energized each movement of the oppressed peoples. It is the powerful and most profound movement that shook this country to the very foundation. Because the first shall be last and the last shall be first. If you are not supposed to be here in the first place, what relationship are you going to have to do with a foreign land? You're going to struggle constantly. The primary mistake, Sammy, that people of the state make is the forces of the organized masses, guided principles of seasonal organizations. You will struggle, and you will win. Period. Doesn't matter what you do, we're coming. He gave us a gun during the Civil War, it was gone in 6 months. We must shed our blood. Oh, this is something quiet. This is me being nerdy. Here is here is the political economy of North America. It's basically it. I can show you, I can finish it to you at some point. That's it. However, we have next steps. So, stop. So, next, Tim, what do next steps? You know more than I do, don't you? Oh, no, you don't, do you? Partner?
You want me to read these?
Yeah, I think you should.
Thank you, Aramis.
Thank you.
Woo. You went deep for our old sister. Great job. Next steps, what is safety? How do we define safety for our communities is tomorrow from 1 to 2:30, and again, from 4:30 to 6.
That's all right. Yes.
With just, it's a repeat of the same session. Okay, so there are 2 opportunities to show up for both. It's going to be on West Town Street here in Columbus. Your next opportunity to come out and be with us as we continue to define safety. How do we define it in our communities? Will be on February 25th. From 2:30 to 4:30 at South Grant Avenue. That's the main library. Yeah. Yeah. There will be a return to CPD.
That's what y'all talking about Saturday, right? That's all I do.
Michael Cleveland, okay. Return to CPD. Updates on where we are. Many of you saw or are aware that we had a press conference on Monday. We dropped off a list of demands to city leadership, to the mayor, to the executive director, and the president of city council. We gave them 7 days to respond to those demands. 7 days will be Monday. I did have, this was a up to the minute update, a conversation this evening with some of the leadership around that, including Sean Walton. We've kind of revised those plans. We were kind of thinking about returning with a direct action on Monday. at city council. The plan was to return to city council for a, direct action. We have pushed that back. The new plan is that, a group of the leadership, please show up. We're planning to meet on Monday as opposed to returning to City Hall. We're going to meet Saturday. We're not going to meet on Saturday. We're going to meet on Monday. What we learned is Monday is a holiday. Monday is, speaking of all this.
The colonial.
Colonial forces in the United States have designated Monday as President's Day so that we can glorify the colonizers in some way as we see fit. So we recognize as the bourgeoisie and the colonizer oppose President's Day. There's nobody at City Hall. And I shared with many folks that when I come to your house to say something to you, I want you to be in your house. I want you to be home. I want you to be looking out your window as I speak to you. And you're more than welcome to come out and speak to me. So we're not going to do an action on Monday. One of the other things that we recognize, and I talked about it as we opened up this evening, is that I am giving you a next step call to action. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough bullshit to fight them with their organized money and that collective power that they have. But what we do have that they can never stand up against is people power. We the people. We are the people that they talk about in their documents. We the people. Oppressed people win when they rise up collectively and they demand something. And so we put forth a demand. But what it will take for us to be able to wield that kind of power, we have to be able to show up in force. That means that we got to go speak with our allies, with our comrades, with our guerrillas, with our organizations, with our coalition partners. And we have to show up in the way that we have shown up in this city in the past. We have showed up wielding powerful. We've made national headlines on how we show up in Columbus, Ohio. And so we want to stay true to that. So we want to give folks some time to speak to folks. The next step is we are going to put out a sign-on letter for organizations and individuals to sign on to those lists of demands. It will give you an opportunity to take what we are calling for and our messages back to your people and to your organizations. It will give you time to do some old school grassroots organizing. And so the other thing that is important to me, because we are nothing without each other. And we the people mean that we move together. We don't want to be planning something and we haven't spoken to the people and given them a chance to weigh in. So we want to come together and decide what that next step is. What does the next action look like? When should it be? Who wants to lead? Who's leading together? What role do you want to play? We want to have that time to be able to do that so that when we have this action, we show up united. Everybody knows, the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. The families and the attorneys, I've been talking to some of the families. We've been talking to some of the attorneys. We want them to be aware. We want family members to be free to speak. And we want to center them and not us. And so we need some time to do that work. So the next step is you will be getting, and if you have not signed and sign in, please sign in, give us your email, your contact information. You will be getting the sign-on letter demanding justice for Michael Cleveland. Does everybody know who Mr. Cleveland is? You know the story of what happened to Mr. Cleveland? Great. With the list of demands, and you are welcome to sign on as an individual, or if you're part of an organization, please take it to your organization members and get their approval to sign on to that, and then we will plan the action, okay? We plan to meet Monday. Sean Walton is going to be sending out an email. We will share it with you to meet Monday evening at 6 o'clock on Main Street at the new coffee house right at Main in Ohio that Sean Walton is opening up. You'll get an email about that. We're asking folks that want to help strategize and plan next steps. That will be this Monday as it pertains to Michael Cleveland. There will be reflections on Memphis on March 5th. Do we have any more information about who,
Yeah.
when, where?
Yeah, so I'll send out. A email to join the Zoom is with the national partners. We'll be discussing benefits and what. Safety.
Reflections on Memphis. So look for an email on that, scheduled for March 5th. People's Justice Project is planning a candidates forum. I don't know if everybody knows, but I'm gonna announce it again because I've been celebrating. There is a bright side somewhere, things we can celebrate. Our dear friend, our comrade, our sister, Adrian Hood, signatures were approved to run for city council, and she will be on the ballot, along with other community folks that are running for political office. And we want to, as Aaron has said, we think about who has the power, or we don't think about the mayor of the city council because we see them as power. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they stand for. We don't know what they believe in. But we have to, one, determine what are we gonna hold them accountable for as we go vote for them. And we have to be in relationship to them enough to know what do they believe in, what are they fighting for, what are they gonna stand up for us. We have to know those things, and the only way we know them is that we ask questions. And so as we run up to this next election, we want to be ahead of the game for that. We want to be ahead of the game on knowing who those folks are as we participate in civic engagement. So that's going to be coming up. We haven't set a date for that yet, but know that that is in the works, and we'll get more information out about it. If you want to be a part of what it looks like, if you want to be a part of defining what a candidates forum should be, then let us know. We need all hands on deck. Those are our next opportunities. Yes, Ernest. Yes, yes.
Whatever.
And we got a photographer. We got some bullet and able soldiers on the battlefield.
Is there anything you have in those things? We are about to file for a ballot initiative.
Okay, which would be a part of the conversation in our candidates forum for sure. So let's start thinking about what that looks like. It's time to get busy. Aramis didn't put it up here, but I just want to mention that. You see me with my Black Freedom Collective sweatshirt on today. The Justice Project is part of a national coalition of Black movement folks around the country, which is under an umbrella of the Black Freedom Collective, which is a part of community change. If you don't know, community change has been around since the 60s. It was founded by the Kennedys to really begin to invest in the things that, especially coming out of the civil rights movement, the communities were calling for. And so it's been around a long time, full transparency. I've been partnered with them since 2016. They created a women's fellowship, which is formerly incarcerated women from around the country, women of color. I helped to design that fellowship back in 2016, 17. And I now do training for the Women's Fellowship. We're on our third year of the Women's Fellowship. And so that group of folks, along with the Black Freedom Collective, we've been calling for a campaign that's totally focused on the things that we've been calling for in Black communities. And so we're not going to talk too much about it tonight, but know that we're getting ready to launch a national campaign focused on safety, focused on marijuana justice. Whatever am I leaving out, Aaron? Is
Black shit.
Black shit. Black shit. We're at the early stages of designing that campaign, and so you'll be hearing more about that as we prepare to launch a campaign. So I say all that to say that there are so many opportunities for you to get involved, so many opportunities for you to take back to your communities to get involved. So keep following. Shout out to our beast T back there in the room, who has been, I don't know if y'all noticed, People Just Project look different now. We look all official. She's been creating some amazing reels and clips and things to keep us informed, to keep us connected to knowledge. And so keep looking, dates, times, and things like that will be on our social media. Please follow us there. We should have most of your emails. If you haven't had a chance to sign in, please sign in and we will keep you updated.
You wanna close it?
Yeah, let's close out.
Go ahead.
I'm not gonna do anything formal, just stand up,